The formation of methodology of teaching biology can be traced back to ancient times. This is due to the development of international conditions, the development of botany and zoology, practical knowledge and observation of nature, which have been accumulated for centuries. The initial elements of the methodology arose in the practice of teaching, when understanding the goals of studying wildlife, in the selection of the content of the subject and methods of its study. For a long time, questions about natural phenomena have been included in the content of education. This is evidenced by the history of school science. At the first stage, the content of school natural science was far from science and had a religious orientation. The origin of the methodology of teaching natural science, which includes biology, is associated with the name Vasily Fedorovich Zuyev. In the 18th century, there were foreign textbooks in which the study of nature began with the descriptors of the structure of the human body and animal organisms. These guidelines could not serve as a model for Zuyev's textbook, since they did not contain methodological guidelines for teachers, helped to teach a course in natural science. Zuyev for the first time had to solve a methodological question about the selection of the content and sequence of studying the source of natural science. In 1786, a textbook in the two books was printed without specifying the surname. It was called Inscription of Natural History, published for the public schools of the Russian Empire. The textbook consisted of two parts. The first part studied the fossil kingdom, or in another word, minerals and rocks, and next, vegetation kingdom, about plants. In the second part, the animal kingdom, which includes also description of human body. First, Zuyev was the first to define the sequence of studying nature, which is the basis of the modern didactic rule, from non-living to living. The selection of the content of educational material was carried out taking into account the practical orientation of training, or in another word, learning. The textbook describes 148 plants and 157 vertebrates that are important for humans. It should be noted that Zuyev explained the diversity of the plant world not by the omniscience of the creator, as it was customary to explain at the time, but by the consequence of the great variety of climatic and soil conditions existing on the earth. Like Linnaeus, the scientist placed man among the animal kingdom, which was a whole back on his part. The description of the animals was drawn up according to a single plan: the appearance and lifestyle of the animal, and the indication of the benefits and its economic use. For the first time, Zuyev expressed the requirements for the protection of game animals. The describing pets, tips for the caring for them are included. The material of the textbooks is presented in a lively, figurative language. The general rise of thought in the second half of the 19th century is partly due to the appearance of Charles Darwin's book, The Origin of Species. The advanced part of society is raising the question of education of children in a materialistic explanation of nature, based on the direct observation of natural objects and comprehending the relationship between them. Many school programs were built according to the principles of Lubin, a talented German teacher who acted as a reformer of school science in the 1850s. He wrote the first method of natural science. The teacher proposed an inductive method of studying natural science, in which knowledge of nature went from simple to complex, from known to unknown, from the concrete to the abstract. The inductive method was based on direct observation by school children of natural objects and comprehending the relationship between them. The progressive teacher Konstantin Dmitrievich Ushensky had a tremendous influence on the development of this trend in teaching primary school children. Ushensky considered the entire system of studying nature, assimilating ideas and encounters about its explanatory reading, highlighting the method of observation as the most effective in cognizing nature. In his books Native World and Children's World, he includes a wealth of material about living nature involving the conduct of observation and experiments. Ushensky suggests starting the acquaintance of children with nature by studying their area and observing the seasons, so that the child could check the impression of reading books or teacher's message by personal experiments. Development of nature science methodology in the second half of the 19th century associated with the name of Alexander Yakovlevich Gerd. He sustainable the system of studying nature in elementary school, from the inorganic world to plants, animals, and human. The textbook The World of God, written by Gerd for school children in 2nd and 3rd grades, consists of 2 parts. First about earth, air, and water, and the second about plants, animals, and human. It also includes the study of the history of the earth with elements of evolutionary doctrine. In 1883, Gerd published in a methodological manual subject lesson in elementary school for teachers, in which he proposed a methodology for conducting observation and experiments in natural science lessons. Unlike Ruben, the teacher puts up for the development of school children's ability to make generalization and conclusion based on observed facts, connection between phenomena. Gerd believed that the main task of a teacher is to carry out complete explanation in the classroom, and children observing natural objects and conducting experiments with them will learn to describe, compare, generalize, and draw appropriate conclusions. Gerd demanded that the teacher regularly comply the abstract of lessons, and he himself developed a methodological guide for teachers, the first lesson of mineralogy. Lesson plan for the study of non-living nature were the first example of teaching methodology for a single subject. Consequently, Gerd was the first to solve the basic general problem of the methodology of teaching natural science. Until now, the works of Gerd serve as a basis for methodological development in the course of natural science.